What's up everybody, James Weston here. Welcome back to my channel, the best place for aspiring digital nomads, location independents, and remote workers around the world. In this video, we're gonna be talking about how to decide where to live. After being location independent for over 5 years now, I've lived in dozens of different cities, and you could say I have a little bit of an opinion on this. So in this video, you're gonna learn the 5 most important factors that you need to consider when deciding what city you want to call home. If you follow the steps that I give you in this video, it's gonna help you naturally just narrow down your options so that you know what's the best one for you. All right, let's jump right into it. Factor number 1, pick the right climate for you. Now remember, in this video, we're talking about a home base. We're not talking about a travel destination that you're gonna spend a week or 2 at. We're talking about somewhere where you're going to live in between your travels. So we're not just looking for someplace with nice weather. I want you to think of it like you are a plant and the place that you live is your garden. Well, the question is, what is going to be the best garden for you to essentially enhance your productivity, enhance your daily plans, your happiness, and all the things that you care about in your life? So to give you an example, I grew up in New York. And I love New York, but I really only love it about 3 seasons per year. New York is really known to have some pretty icy, snowy, and cold winters, and that's really not the type of environment that I like to be in year-round. So what do I mean by this? Well, essentially, sometimes in New York, when you wake up in the middle of the winter, you've got some plans, but because there's snow on the ground and because there's ice on the roads, your plans get all messed up and you can't do the things that you were planning on doing originally. So for me, being in an environment that has snow 3 or 4 months a year really is not the best environment to call a home base. I'd rather go there just to visit. Now, a lot of people think that Miami is a paradise, okay? And I gotta be honest, I love Miami, I live there, and it's a great place to live pretty much 3 seasons out of the year, kind of like New York, because the summers in Miami are extremely hot and extremely humid. So for me, it's like I would be walking to a business meeting and it's like I just got out of a hot yoga class by the time I get there. So for me, it's a little bit too hot. What I'm looking for is a home base that has balance. I want something that anytime during the year I can go back, I can go home, and it's gonna be good weather that's not gonna interfere with my plans, it's not gonna interfere with my mood, and it's gonna allow me to be ultra productive where I'm at. So at this point in my life, I live in Medellin, Colombia, and there's a couple of reasons for that, but if we're talking about climate, Medellin is essentially between 65 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit year round and doesn't have super high humidity and doesn't really rain that much except during the rainy season. So for me, that's a perfect environment. Essentially, anytime I come back home from traveling and I go back to Medellin, well, essentially the weather is never messing with my plans and it's really allowing me to be productive whenever I'm at home. So let's talk about you. What kind of weather is optimal for your desired lifestyle? Do you want to be in a hot and dry environment? Do you want to be in the snowy Alps? Do you want to have 4 distinct seasons? Knowing this about yourself, knowing where you like to be and what type of weather you like to be around will definitely help you narrow down your choices on a map. So I'm curious, drop me a comment below and let me know, what type of climate do you prefer? All right, moving on to factor number 2, safety is a must. I get it, the guy living in Colombia is about to lecture me on safety. I get it, okay? But the truth is, Colombia is actually much safer than the reputation that it has. Pablo died many years ago, and it's actually incredibly peaceful, and the people are incredibly happy here, despite what you would see in a Netflix series. So my point is this, you may have some misconceptions about whether or not a city is safe, but here's what I'll tell you from my experience. Every city has dangerous areas and has safe areas. And the truth is, before moving there, you have to know what are the safest cities, what are the safest areas of those cities, and what are the places that you need to avoid. So how do you figure this stuff out? Well, there's actually a number of ways, but what's cool is, in the world that we live in today, a lot of this information you can get online. You can look up crime rates, you can look up the best neighborhoods, you can see where the tourism is, you can see where the economy is growing and where people are staying away from. The other thing is actually going and visiting, right? Going and talking to locals. People that live in the city are gonna know the areas best, so don't be afraid to go do that. One thing that I will tell you is if you go visit a city, be careful of the cheapest Airbnbs, be careful of the cheapest hotels because those are usually the ones that are in the bad area. The bottom line is this, you can never fully eliminate risk. There's gonna be danger no matter where you live, but the point is to understand where the danger is and stay clear of that as much as you possibly can. If you're not already location independent and it's something that you wanna learn how to do, I'm gonna put a link also to my free blueprint, the 4 paths to location independence. You can download that absolutely free, and that should help you get started on this journey if you're not already there. And while you're at it, go ahead and hit the subscribe button as well. All right guys, factor number 3. cost of living. Now, assuming that you're location independent, some of you guys are, some of you aren't, but let's just say that you can earn your income from any city in the world, what you're gonna be looking at is the cost of living in each city. There's 4 main factors that I would consider. Number 1 is housing, number 2 is food, 3 is taxes, and 4 is healthcare. You wanna understand, you wanna have a budget for each of these so that you know what you're getting yourself into before you get there. So, how do you do that? Well, the cool thing is, all of these numbers are pretty much available online nowadays. So if you listen to the last section, we've already narrowed down the safer areas of the city, the places that you actually would want to live. Well, let's start looking at the actual price to live there. So look at a 1-bedroom and say, how much does a 1-bedroom in that area range? Well, that's the first part of your budget. The second part of your budget is going to be food. Well, I want to make sure that I'm in an area that has high quality, organic, farm to table food. That's just me. And that's going to cost a certain amount. So I want to know, where are those restaurants? Okay, are they walking distance? How much is it gonna cost me to eat in those restaurants? Where are the grocery stores? Am I gonna be able to get that type of food? And how much is it gonna cost me on a weekly basis to budget for my groceries? So that's something that I would suggest you do, is figure out, number 1, your rent, number 2, your food. The other huge thing is taxes, right? Different countries, different cities have different tax codes. So it's important to understand, if you move from one to another, are you gonna be saving money on your taxes, or are you gonna be increasing your taxes? It's really important to understand that. I'm not an expert, I can't advise you on that, but that information is available for each city, and I would understand that before you get there. The last thing is healthcare. Number 1, you wanna make sure that you have access to good healthcare, but you also wanna know, how much is health insurance gonna cost? If you're not gonna do insurance, how much is it gonna cost to go to an urgent care facility or a hospital, or how much does healthcare cost in that area, to make sure that you can afford that as well. So once you've narrowed this down, you've got a little bit of research to do, and I would make sure that you understand exactly what to expect financially before you actually make the commitment to moving to a new city, okay? Now, there's a great website, it's called Nomad List. I will put it in a link in the description, and it essentially breaks down all different cities around the world, and it talks about a bunch of the different factors that I mentioned in this video. So you can get a lot of information directly from that website, and I'll put a link in the bio. All right, guys, moving on to factor number 4. Community, okay? So we've narrowed down the type of weather that you want to be in, the safety, we've talked about the cost of living, and now you need to think about, who do you want to be around every day? What language do they speak? What is their culture like? What type of careers do they have? What are their values? What's the overall vibe of the city? Okay, are there a bunch of digital nomads? Are there a bunch of tourists? Are there a bunch of just locals living there? What is your vibe? What do you want to be around on a daily basis? I would definitely suggest going and visiting a city before making the commitment to move there full time. There's a lot that you can learn just by talking to locals, walking down the street, being in cabs or taxis and talking to the drivers. You really get a feel for the energy of the city and for what people care about. And you really understand, are they friendly? Are they nice? Are they lazy? Are they struggling? Are they happy with the city? Do they love where they live, or do they want to leave? A lot of this is very indicative to whether or not you're going to want to live there as well. So I definitely suggest going there and actually getting a feel for the city. All right, and number 5, proximity. Okay, you want to make sure that you are not secluded in the middle of nowhere, unless you want to be, okay? But you want to know, like, how close are the closest airports? How close are the closest hospitals? The other cities nearby, public transportation. How walkable is the city? How easily can you go back and visit your friends and family from where you came from, okay? So there's a lot of different factors in terms of what's around you and how close you are to other stuff that you want to consider. Another really important thing about proximity is business hours, okay? Are you on the same time zone as maybe your business runs or your job runs? You know, a lot of people like to go out into Asia and live in Bali and all that, but you know, if you're working on Eastern Standard Time business hours from 9 to 5, well, that means when you're in Bali, you're gonna be working in the middle of the night. So you have to understand the different hours that you'll be working and the way that you're gonna accommodate your schedule with your work and where you're living. Another big one for people like us, location independence, digital nomads, is where are you gonna work, right? Are there co-working spaces, or is there office space that you can rent? Are there coffee shops? You wanna make sure that you know where that stuff is in relation to where you're living in the city, to make sure that's convenient for you, that you're gonna be able to maintain your career and your lifestyle without that being interfered with. Something else that I think is super important is making sure there's fun stuff to do in the city, right? Not only for me and during my free time and with my friends, but also when people come to visit. I want to be able to show them a good time. I want to make sure that a city that I live in has good nightlife. I want to make sure that they have fun stuff to do. They have festivals and concerts and stuff that I can bring people to. I also care a lot about outdoor activities. I want to be near either mountains or beaches or parks or lakes. I want to be able to get outside and be in nature. That's important to me. Maybe it's important to you too. And one more thing that I touched on earlier is quality of food. water, organic farms, things like that. That's something that I care a lot about. Maybe you do too, but I want to make sure that it's not going to be super inconvenient in order for me to get quality food. I'm planning on eating every day, so I want to make sure that my food is definitely something that I plan for ahead of time and make sure that the city that I live in has quality food. All right, guys, I know that that's a lot of different factors to consider, but the truth is choosing where to live is a huge decision. And so it's important to do your homework beforehand and to really consider all of these different things. If you want to learn more about becoming location independent so you can truly have the freedom to live and work anywhere in the world, be sure to check out my free blueprint below, the 4 Paths to Location Freedom. And while you're at it, go ahead and hit the subscribe button as well. If you guys are interested more in this topic, the next video coming up is called What is a Digital Nomad versus Location Independent? Hope you guys enjoy that, and I will see you guys on the next video.